Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 48. Priyata Kirtayet Prataha.
Prayata Kirtiyet Pratah
Samavaye Dvijana Janmanam.
Samavaye Janmanam
Sayam cha punya shlokasya.
Sayam cha punya shlokasya
Dhruvasya charitam mahat.
Dhruvasya charitam mahat.
Translation and purpose by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Maitreya recommended one should chant of the character and activities of Dhruva Maharaj, both in the morning and in the evening, with great attention and care, in a society of brahmanas or other twice-born persons. It is said that only in the association of devotees can one understand the importance of the character and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His devotees. So that's the reason it is so important to hear from the devotees in the disciplic succession. And that's the reason it's not recommended to hear from the professional reciters, because when we hear from professional reciters, we will not have a change in the heart. But when we are hearing from the devotees, then we can actually be able to have the understanding of the position of the Supreme Lord, of the glories of the Supreme Lord and His devotees. In this verse, it is especially recommended that Dhruva Maharaj's character be discussed in a society of the twice born, which refers to the qualified Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. One should especially seek the society of Brahmanas who are elevated to the position of Vaishnavas. Thus, discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the character and pastimes of devotees and the Lord, is very quickly effective. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been organized for this purpose. In every center of this society, not only in the morning, evening, or noon, but practically 24 hours a day, there is continuous devotional service going on. So Srila Prabhupada is saying he established the ISKCON society for this purpose, so that people can come together and hear and chant the glories of the Lord, engage in deity worship. Anyone who comes in contact with the society automatically becomes a devotee. We have actual experience that many karmis and others come to the society and find a very pleasing and peaceful atmosphere in the temples of ISKCON. In this verse, the word Dvijanmana means the of the twice born. Anyone can join the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and be initiated to become twice born. So it's not that only people from particular sections of society, country, or community can join ISKCON. Everyone can join. As recommended by Sanatana Goswami, by the process of initiation and authorized training, any man can become twice born. So twice born is the Brahman initiation. The first birth is made possible by the parents, and the second birth is made possible by the spiritual father and the Vedic knowledge. So that's why it's called twice born, because the first birth is when we take the material birth in the world, and then the second birth is the spiritual master gives us the initiation, and that is the second birth. That's why it's called twice born. Unless one is twice born, one cannot understand the transcendental characteristics of the Lord and His devotees. Study of the Vedas is therefore forbidden for Shudras. Simply by academic qualifications, a Shudra cannot understand the transcendental science. At the present moment, throughout the entire world, the educational system is geared to produce Shudras. The Bhagavatam says everyone born in Kali Yuga is a Shudra. We may think we are born of a particular society or a community, but Bhagavatam says that everyone born in Kali Yuga is a Shudra, and then we have to qualify ourselves to the position of Brahmanas. At the present moment, throughout the entire world, the educational system is geared to produce Shudras. A big technologist is no more than a big Shudra. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. In the age of Kali, everyone is a Shudra. Because the whole population of the world consists only of Shudras, there is a decline of spiritual knowledge and people are unhappy. The Krishna consciousness movement has been started especially to create qualified Brahmanas to broadcast spiritual knowledge all over the world. For thus people may become very happy. So all our problems, why do we face so many problems in society, is because our society has moved away from God. We have forgotten God, and that's what is the root cause of the problems. So Prabhupada is saying he established the ISKCON society so that we can revive our Krishna consciousness and thus be happy in this life, and at the same time cultivate spiritual knowledge to go back home, back to Godhead. Purnamasyam sinivalyam
Purnamasyam sinivalyam
dvadashyam shravane athava
dvadasham shravane athava
dinashaye vyatipate
dinashaye vyatipate
sankrame raka dine apiva
sankrame daka dine apiva
shravayek shraddadhananam
Shravayej Shraddhadananam
tirthapada padashrayah
Tirthapada Padashrayah
necham statrat manatmanam
Necham Satra Manatmanam
santushta iti siddhyati.
Santushta Iti Siddhyati.
Persons who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord should recite this narration of Dhruva Mahārāja without taking remuneration. Specifically, recitation is recommended on the full moon or dark moon day, on the day after Ekadashi, on the appearance of the Shravan star, at the end of a particular tithi, or the occasion of Vyatipat, at the end of the month, or on Sunday. Such recitation should, of course, be performed before a favorable audience. When recitation is performed in this way, without professional motive, the reciter and audience become perfect. Professional reciters may ask money to extinguish the blazing fire within their bellies, but they cannot make any spiritual improvement or become perfect. It is therefore strictly forbidden to recite Srimad Bhagavatam as a profession to earn a livelihood. Only one who is completely surrendered at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, depending fully on Him for personal maintenance or even for maintenance of his family, can attain perfection by recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. So we are hearing Bhagavatam in the disciplic succession. We are hearing it from Sukadev Goswami, from Srila Prabhupada. So that is the way to hear the Bhagavatam. The process can be summarized as follows. The audience must be faithfully receptive to the Bhagavad message, and the reciter should completely depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad recitation must not be a business. If done in the right way, not only does the reciter achieve perfect satisfaction, but the Lord also is very satisfied with the reciter and the audience. And thus both are liberated from material bondage simply by the process of hearing. So just by hearing Bhagavatam, by hearing and by reciting Bhagavatam, one can get liberation. Liberated from material bondage. The reciter and the hearer both become perfect, like Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Both get perfection. It's not that only Sukadev Goswami, no, Parikshit Maharaj also gets perfection. So Bhagavatam is so pure. That's why we are recommended to regularly hear Bhagavatam, recite Bhagavatam. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Jnanam Agyata Tattvaya.
Jnanam Ajnata Tattvaya
Yo Dadyat Satpatemritam.
Yodyat Satpate Amritam
Kripalo Dinanathasya.
Kripalo Dinanathasya
Devastasyanugranate.
Devastasyanugrihate.
The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities, automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods. Jnanam Agyata means knowledge which is unknown almost throughout the entire world. No one knows actually what is the absolute truth. Yeah, it's not easy to understand the absolute truth. So that's the reason we need to hear from the devotees, because the devotees have seen the truth. Materialists are very
One
proud.
question. Sorry, Hare Krishna.
Hare
What is it
Krishna.
they're saying that you have to recite on Dhruva Maharaj? Is any particular thing? The prayer?
The pastime.
Just the
This
pastime, not some verse to be recited. No, right?
No, this pastime that we
Pastime
have been
of
hearing.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think it was mentioned is specifically this chapter of his going back to Godhead. I think yesterday or day before we read was
Yeah.
mentioned specifically this chapter.
Okay.
The materialists are very proud of their advancement in education, in philosophical speculation, and in scientific knowledge, but no one actually knows what the absolute truth is. So we have material knowledge. We may have some very good idea of some particular field of material knowledge, and that's good for us to maintain ourselves in the material world. But that is not knowledge of the absolute truth. The great sage Maitreya therefore recommends that to enlighten people about the absolute truth, Tattva, devotees should preach the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the entire world. This is what Maitreya Muni is saying. Teach the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the entire world. So Bhagavatam is not meant only for, a small group of people. No, Bhagavatam is for everyone. Srila Vyasadeva specifically compiled this great literature of scientific knowledge because people are completely unaware of the absolute truth. We can see how Prabhupada's words are very, very written and very specifically. Literature of scientific knowledge. So this knowledge of self-realization of Bhagavatam is scientific. Why? Because it can be applied. It's not only theoretical knowledge. It can be applied and we can see the effect, the result of that knowledge, of application of this knowledge. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, it is said that Vyasadeva, the learned sage, compiled this great Bhagavad Puran just to stop the ignorance of the mass of people. So Bhagavatam is left for us because this age of Kali is a dark age, and Bhagavatam is what is showing us the light. It's telling us about Krishna, about the pure devotees, about devotional service. This is what is giving light. Because people do not know the absolute truth, the Srimad Bhagavatam was specifically compiled by Vyasadeva under the instruction of Narad. So Vyasadeva, he had compiled, he knew the age of Kali was coming. So he recorded the Vedas. Before that, the Vedas were only spoken. They were not written. So he knew Kali was coming and that our memories are going to be very short. So for our benefit, he wrote down everything. Then he said, wow, the Vedas are so vast. We have short lives, our minds are disturbed, we are lazy. So he separated them into 4. Otherwise, there was one original Veda. Then he separated them into 4. Does anyone remember the name of the 4 Vedas?
Samaveda, Yajurveda, Rig Veda, and Artha Veda or something. Yeah.
And then he said, okay, then he also recorded the Puranas, the Upanishads. Then he said, wow, the Vedas are very vast. So let me put a summary of the Vedas. That's why he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. So he did so much, but yet he was not very satisfied. And then Narad Muni came to him. Vyasadeva was feeling great dissatisfaction. His spiritual master Narad Muni came. So Vyasadeva told his spiritual master, I've done so much for humanity, It's not easy, imagine, recording all the Vedas, which are so vast. He said, I'm still feeling very great dissatisfaction. What is the reason? Narad Muni said, because you have not specifically described devotional service, the glories of Krishna. That's the reason. Yeah, you have recorded the Vedas, but people are not going to be able to understand the absolute truth by hearing the Vedas. That's why you're feeling great dissatisfaction. And after that, Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is called the essence of the Vedas, the cream of the essence of the Vedas. So he was feeling dissatisfaction because he knew that the Vedas they can be misinterpreted. And if a person follows the hymns of the Vedas, they can get distracted to go to the heavenly planets and may not reach up to Krishna. And so this is what was creating this dissatisfaction. He had not properly glorified devotional service. So under the instruction of Narad Muni, he wrote the Bhagavatam. Generally, even though people are interested in understanding the truth, they take to speculation and reach at most the conception of impersonal Brahman. But very few men actually know the personality of Godhead. So if we follow the path of knowledge, we are going to come to the conclusion that God is light. And very few people understand that God is a person. Not easy. And that's the reason even the Sri Upanishad is the mantra. It says that, my dear Lord, please remove this light which is blinding my vision. I'm not able to see your face because of this glaring light which is coming from you. Recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam is specifically meant to enlighten people about the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. So Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada said that by reading Bhagavatam, we can see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam. Krishna is the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. although there is no fundamental difference between impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Person, factual immortality cannot be obtained unless and until one attains the stage of associating with the Supreme Person. So why they are saying, although there's no fundamental difference between impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Person, Bhagavatam says that those who are the transcendentalists, those who want to understand the absolute truth, understand the absolute truth as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That the Lord, the Supreme Lord, He's a person. The Brahman is the light coming from his body, and Paramatma is his feature by which he is pervading this universe. But until and unless we understand that God is a person, only when we understand that God is a person and one attains the stage of associating with the Supreme Person, factual immortality cannot be obtained. Means liberation, permanent liberation. Because one may reach up to the Brahma Jyoti, but yet, because the knowledge is still incomplete, knowledge of the identity of the spirit soul, knowledge of the identity of the Supreme Lord, knowledge of devotional service, in spite of reaching the Brahma Jyoti, one may still come back to the material world. So that's the factual immortality or real eternal life can be attained only once we understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna and we have an eternal loving relationship with Krishna. That's our true identity. Devotional service, which leads to the association of the Supreme Lord, is actual immortality. Your devotees, out of compassion for the fallen souls, are Kripalu, very kind to people in general. They distribute this Bhagavad knowledge all over the world. So devotees like Narad Muni, why is Narad Muni going all over the universe? What is he doing? It's not that he likes to, he's going sightseeing. You know, we travel, we want to see different places, we want to have different experiences. And Narad Muni is out of his compassion. He's traveling all over the universes for our benefit. Compassion for us fallen souls. And so the pure devotees are like that. Srila Prabhupada is one such devotee. He traveled 14 times or 11 times. 14. Anyway, it's a huge number all over the world travel at that advanced age for us, to give us Krishna consciousness. Kind-hearted devotee is called Dinanath, protector of the poor, ignorant mass of people. Lord Krishna is also known as Dinanath or Dinabandhu, the master or actual friend of the poor living entities, and his pure devotee also takes the same position of Dinanath. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, text 29, also Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, Krishna says that he is the best friend of all living entities. We may think I am the best friend of everyone, but actually the best friend is Krishna. Krishna is the best friend of everyone. And similarly, because the pure devotees are taking on the task of Krishna, bringing the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead, they are also called as the best friend. The Dinanathas or devotees of Lord Krishna who preach the path of devotional service become the favorites of the demigods. Generally, people are interested in worshipping the demigods, especially Lord Shiva, in order to obtain material benefits. But a pure devotee who engages in preaching the principles of devotional service as prescribed in the Srimad Bhagavatam does not need to separately worship the demigods. The demigods are automatically pleased with him and offer all the blessings within their capacity. So if we really want to become dear to the demigods, then how to do that? Taking up devotional service. A devotee is automatically dear to the demigods. There are pastimes of Lord Shiva where he was hearing the recitation of Bhagavatam by Sanatana Goswami. And because Sanatana Goswami was reciting it so beautifully this pastime, Lord Shiva would again and again turn the page because he wanted to repeatedly hear the recitation by Sanatana Goswami. And this is the relationship between the demigods and the pure devotees. The demigods are automatically pleased with the pure devotees and offer all the blessings within their capacity. So we can see that instead of separately thinking that the demigods are separate, are independent of Krishna, if we rather worship Krishna, we automatically receive the blessings of the demigods. As by watering the root of a tree, the leaves and branches are automatically watered. So by executing pure devotional service to the Lord, the branches, twigs, and leaves of the Lord, known as demigods, are automatically pleased with the devotee, and they offer all benedictions. So this is the position of Krishna. When we have a plant and we have a tree, we pour water on the root of the tree. We don't separately water each and every twig, branch, and leaf. No, we just simply pour water to the root, and automatically the entire tree or the plant becomes lush and green. Similarly, Krishna is the root. If we worship Krishna, automatically everyone will be pleased by us. We don't need to separately please. Does it mean that we become rude to people? No, we are never taught that. We need to respect everyone. But what is specifically, what is being said is to worship the Supreme Lord, engage in devotional service of the Lord, and automatically everyone will be pleased and offer the blessings to the devotee. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Did you want to add anything? About this pastime that we are. I think we just have one more text. Shall we finish that today? This is the last one. Is that okay?
Yes.
Idam maya te bihitam kurudvaha
Idam maya te apihitam kuru tvaha
Dhruvasya vikhyata vishuddha karmanaha
Dhruvasya vikyata vishuddha karmanaha
Itvarbakaha krida nakani matur
Tvam bakaha kritanakani matur
griham cha Vishnu sharanam yojagama.
graham cha Vishnum sharanam yojagama.
The transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, Dhruva Maharaj rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. My dear Vidur, I therefore conclude this narration, for I have described to you all its details. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that life is certainly short for everyone, but if one acts properly, his reputation will remain for a generation. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is everlastingly famous. So the reputation of Lord Krishna's devotee is also everlasting. Therefore, in describing Dhruva Maharaj's activities, two specific words have been used: Vikhyata, very famous, and Vishuddha, transcendental. Dhruva Maharaj is leaving home at a tender age and taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the forest is a unique example in this world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj is famous till today. This happened in Satyug and we are in Kalyug. So not only a generation. Chanakya Pandit is saying if one acts properly, he becomes, reputation will remain for a generation. That we see how Dhruva Maharaj, by his activities, he's so famous that till today we are hearing and singing his glories for millions and millions of years. That is the fame of a devotee. As Krishna is all famous, the pure devotees, his pure devotees are also all famous. So we'll stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.